Welcome to the Cosen Saw's Technical Training Program Video Collection, a set of videos designed to help better prepare you for the installation of a Cosen bandsaw. In this particular video, we will discuss the steps that must be taken in order to successfully hook up power to your bandsaw. First off, when dealing with power hookup, please remember that all wire and electrical connection work must be done and installed by a licensed electrician. An electrician will see that everything is properly set and that your saw is hooked up to the correct phase and voltage. If your electrician needs help indicating the correct phase and voltage, you can find a label located on the control cabinet door stating the current voltage setup. Located on the frame of the saw is a metal tag which indicates the saw model and serial number. This tag also indicates machine voltage and horsepower. Please always remember to make sure power is disconnected from the main power source before hookup to prevent the danger of electric shock. Once power has been connected to the proper terminals on the saw, the electrician will need to check the power and ensure that the voltage is adequate enough for the machine. After the correct voltage is verified, turn the main disconnect switch, which is located on the panel door, to the on position, then release the e-stop. Depending on the saw model, the touchscreen or blade speed indicator should light up. Next, you must check to make sure your machine has proper phasing and that the various motors are turning in the right direction. This can be done by checking the hydraulic pressure. In the saw user's manual, under the Operations section, is a panel diagram which will show you the location of the saw's hydraulic start button. Again, the location of this button will vary depending on the model. Press the hydraulic start button. The hydraulic pump should now begin to pump. To check and see if the saw's hydraulics are adequately working, locate the hydraulic pressure gauge located on the side of the blade tensioning cylinder. This will be located on the opposite side of the gearbox and blade motor. If you have trouble finding the gauge, please refer to the user manual or call a Cosen representative. If you are reading pressure on the indicator, the saw's power is phased correctly. If the gauge does not indicate pressure, have the electrician turn off the power and reverse the R and T terminal wires in the bottom left corner of the electrical panel. Once this has been done and power restored, the gauge should now show pressure and the saw head should be able to properly move. Take the time now to check your vise movement. Make sure all are tracking appropriately and with no hang-ups. You are now ready for the next step in your machine inspection. In part 2 of this module, you will be checking the machine's blade tension. Your first step will be to check your blade movement and make sure that everything is running smoothly and that the blade is settling on the wheels properly. Once you have verified proper blade movement, be sure all blade clamping mechanisms and vises have been loosened and cross-check for the proper blade tension on your machine's reference sheet. You can now check the machine's blade tension by hooking your tension gauge to the blade and turning off your machine's hydraulics. After blade tension has been checked, remove your gauge, restart hydraulics, and clamp your vises. You can now resume blade operation so that the blade can settle into its proper tracking. As the blade runs, retighten your blade clamps and ensure proper wheel tracking either by use of a filler gauge or by your own sight and sound perception. When checking blade tracking, you must first look at the blade wheel and how the blade is riding along the flange of the wheel. Open the wheel housing and inspect the area between the back of the blade and the flange. A range of 2 to 4 millimeters of space between the blade and the flange is what should be achieved. If the machine's blade needs to be moved to achieve proper tracking, you can adjust the blade by using the blade tensioning device located at the back of the wheel head. Once you have achieved proper tracking on the blade wheel, you can now move to reinstalling the machine's rear backup guides. This is done with the intent of accomplishing proper preload. Securing the blade to the blade arms are small carbide blocks, blade guides, which hold the blade in place. These blocks prevent the blade from moving up and down when it hits the material, allowing a smoother cut. When checking the preload, check the carbide guide settings. You want to be able to have movement which goes side to side, not up and down. If you have very liberal up and down movement, your guides need to be adjusted. This can be done by removing the blocks and letting your blade run momentarily to settle. Once you have deactivated blade movement, reattach the blade guides, adjusting the guide seat as needed to reach proper alignment. These steps will help to ensure proper preload. To check the blade's vertical squareness, you will check various band points to ensure the blade is square top to bottom. This can be done by utilizing a dial indicator. Place the dial indicator at the front of the blade, right over the teeth. Zero out the needle and then slowly traverse the blade down until the indicator is almost at the back of the blade. If the needle on the indicator does not move, then perfect squareness is achieved. Repeat these steps along the different parts of the blade to ensure vertical squareness is achieved throughout and that the band points are at zero. Once vertical squareness is confirmed, the next step is to check for and achieve horizontal squareness. Using a machinist square, check the squareness along the datum or the 0 point. This is done by setting the base of the square against the vise and running the arm of the square along the edge of the blade. If the square runs flush along the blade and the vise, the blade has perfect horizontal squareness. This is step 1. Step 2 for checking horizontal squareness is almost identical. Use the datum as your set point. Place the base of the machinist square against the blade and run the arm of the square along the face of the vise. If the square runs flush against both, you have confirmed that the blade has perfect horizontal squareness. After successfully hooking up power, checking blade tensioning and tracking, and confirming both blade vertical and horizontal squareness, secondary checks can now begin. Secondary checks include the following: verifying secondary pressure by opening and closing vises, moving salvo up and down and moving shuttle vises back and forth, checking the double retracting device, and checking the machine's forward limit switch. Once you have completed all the steps and the machine passes all function tests, you have successfully completed inspection of a new Cosen bandsaw.